Oh, hey there. I see you have a hand trap. Go ahead.
Use it.
I think the biggest hesitation people have when it comes to trying this game for the first time is the idea that this is a one turn game. And while I don't entirely agree with that, you can't deny that a significant portion of your games in the match history are gonna look like this. But when you open up that game, you can see that it was actually a full game that was played in that one turn with plenty of back and forth interaction. And while, yeah, that's great for the K9 Vanquish Soul players, that's not always the case because not everyone is playing K9 Vanquish Soul. Like, if you're some poor soul that downloaded Macedule for the first time because of the HoloLive collab, and you made Live Twin to honor your favorite VTuber, then your ranked experience is gonna look a little bit more like this. And that's if you win the coin flip. And it's not like Live Twins is some unsupported old deck. It literally got new support in the same pack as K9 Vanquish Soul. And I can sympathize with those people who waited God knows how long for the Live Twin support to hit Master Duel, only for it to be immediately outclassed by K9 Vanquish Soul. And as a result, you have a lot of people saying that the deck is unfair and that Konami went too far with the level of turn zero interactions that this kind of deck has. And so that's kind of what I want to look into. Is this level of turn zero interaction too much? Is it not good for the game? Well, let's find out together. To start, let's look at K9 Vanquish Soul as a deck as a whole. And let's start with the themes because I'm a crazy person and I just really enjoy how Konami implements these themes into the game. Starting with the Vanquish Soul side, the cards pulled their inspiration from fighting games, specifically BlazBlue and Guilty Gear. And this one's pretty on the nose. Like, look at Yuki Terumi from BlazBlue and compare it to Valius Caesar. And do I really need to say more? They're pretty much the same character. But of course with Yu-Gi-Oh decks, the themes are usually best represented through gameplay. Cards like Caesar Valius and Heavy Borger represent tagging out into an assist character. Revealing different attributes in your hand is a representation of the button inputs you have to do to actually perform these combos. And the spell and trap cards like Caesar Calamity and Dust Devil are representative of the super moves and the hyper combos in these games. And to be honest, I do think that this deck does emulate the themes of fast-paced fighting games really well. But I don't think this is surprising. Pretty much everyone knows that Vanquish Soul is a fighting game reference. So let's move on to the K9 side of the deck. Now, normally when I do these, I just kind of look up the themes of the deck, go, oh, that's really cool, and then regurgitate it back to you. But when I looked up K9, all I got was it's a reference to police dogs, and that was it. And my first thought was, wow, that's kind of disappointing. That doesn't really sound like Konami at all. And then I looked at the actual names of the K9 cards, and I thought to myself, that's a little weird. Why wouldn't they just call the cards K9 Jokul and K9 Lantern? What's with all the extra letters and numbers? So I decided to take it a step further, and I actually looked up what actual naming conventions for police units in real life actually are. And what I found was actually really cool. To give you an example, let's break down K966A Jokul through the lens of these naming conventions, so you can kind of see what I mean. So the K9 part is obvious. It's the type of unit it actually is. In real life, that would be shortened down to just a K for radio communication clarity. But I don't think Konami can just call the archetype K, so K9 is fine. Moving on to the 66, that's actually the station number that the unit works with. And then we get to the A, and that's where things got really cool for me. So in real life, that letter is the shift designation. And the A stands for Atom Unit, which is a 2-officer patrol unit. And all of a sudden, with that information alone, Jokul's effect becomes a lot more thematically cooler in my opinion. It special summons itself with another level 5 monster because it's a 2-officer patrol unit. It's never alone. And then of course the last part, Jokul, is just its name, Jokul. And I'm glad I actually looked into this because in my first script, I was fully prepared to call Konami a little lazy and say that they kind of half-assed this theme. And that really would have been completely undeserved because after looking into it, I think they did a great job with the theming on K9. It's just a lot more subtle than the theming of other decks that you see in this game. But when you smash these two decks together, you get K9 Vanquish Soul, which is a deck among decks for sure. And at least at the time of recording this, K9 Vanquish Soul is one of the best decks in the TCG, in the OCG, and in Master Duel, despite the 3 formats having vastly different card pools. It's basically quick affected deck, and you can insert any number of R-turn memes here. But despite how fast the deck moves, it actually doesn't produce any Omni Negate whatsoever, which I think is an important point to bring up. Like, look at this end board here for a second. At a glance, it doesn't really seem probable to break that with 4 cards. But because the end board doesn't have any sort of blanket negate that stops whatever you want, you can actually break through with some pretty smart sequencing and have some really good games even when they make a full board. And to be honest, I can't express enough how good the mirror match actually feels for K9 Vanquish Soul. Games rarely feel like a blowout, regardless of who won the coin flip, and it's honestly some of the most fun I've had climbing in Master Duel since I got back into the game. So great, everyone who plays K9 Vanquish Soul gets to have a good time and enjoy the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! But what if you're not playing K9 Vanquish Soul? How is a deck with 0 Omni Negates completely dominating in a game where the meme is 7 Negate end boards? How is it creating so much of a power gap to the point to where people just call the deck completely unfair? And for that, I want to break down some of the core strengths that this deck has that makes it stand out far above the rest. So this one isn't a surprise to anyone, right? I mean, it's the most vocal thing that people complain about when it comes to this deck, and it's the whole subtopic of this video. Because the deck is almost entirely quick effects, it basically gets double the amount of actions in a turn of any other deck in the game, with maybe the next closest deck being Draco Tail and what it can do. And to me, this is part of the reason why I find the deck so fun. You don't get punished for winning or losing the coin flip, because you're usually able to play regardless of who wins it. But that means the opposite is also true if you're not playing K9 Vanquish Soul. Winning the coin flip doesn't really matter when they can just play their whole deck in response to your first action in the main phase. And it especially stings when you're playing a deck that can't do that. Because unlike K9 Vanquish Soul and to a degree Draco Tail, most decks need to rely on hand traps to simplify the board state if they're going second. Where K9 Vanquish Soul can play their whole engine backed by hand traps on your turn. And that especially feels bad when we look at the deck's next core strength. So you lost the coin flip, but at least you have some hand traps to try to fight back, right? Right? While this deck doesn't produce an Omni Negate, Ripper might as well just be the next best thing. As if being able to play your whole deck on your opponent's turn wasn't enough, Ripper also limits the amount of actions you can take as the person playing against it. And it's not just Ripper either, there's cards like Heavy Borger and Caesar Values that allow you to dodge targeted interruption like Effect Failure and Infinite Impermanence. And if you're just relying on conventional hand traps, then it really does make it feel a little miserable to play against. You have this uphill battle that you have to play against where half of your hand traps aren't going to work, and you pretty much just have to sit there and watch them play the game. But hey, if you do push through, you'll be okay, right? Now, despite the themes and the pacing of this deck, it's actually not a combo deck at all. But instead, it's actually a control deck designed with strong recursion to actually give it the edge in the grind game. Cards like Rock of the Vanquisher allow you to recycle really good removal options. Multiple non-targeting destruction, the ability to yoink a monster off the opponent's field, and it even has a built-in board wipe. All of this on top of the 2 monster negates that the end board produces. It's not a deck that you actually want to find yourself in a grind game against because it will outgrind you, which is rough when the deck can play on your turn and force you into a grind game before you even have the chance to set up. Stack all of that on top of the fact that the deck has an insane resource efficiency because it generally doesn't have to give up cards to generate more cards. And before you go ahead and dismantle all of your decks, keep in mind that this deck does have its weaknesses. Like without an Omni Negate, the deck is extremely brittle to board breakers. And by brittle, I mean the deck can basically do nothing at all about them. And you even see a shift in some of the deck building philosophy in response to this deck's weaknesses. Like you've got Draco Tail decks that have replaced some of their hand traps with super polymerization. Or decks like Yummy that are replacing their hand traps that target with Forbidden Droplet just because it's better into the K9 matchup. And when side decking is allowed, every deck seems to be using some combination of Book of Eclipse or Evenly Matched to give them the edge in the K9 matchup. And if you're running into K9 Vanquish Soul a lot on ladder, this might be something to try, because I know I've lost a lot of games to Evenly Matched. But now for the elephant in the room, which is this too much? Because a lot of people feel like increasing the amount of turn 0 interactions like this is a step in the wrong direction. And if we freeze time at this very moment, then yeah, I do think K9 Vanquish Soul is probably doing too much. But I don't think that's a bad thing, and hear me out on this. When I look at more modern release decks compared to older decks, there definitely seems to be a design philosophy shift with Konami where they're wanting more turn 0 interaction that doesn't just end on one player having a negate pile. And right now, yeah, it does seem pretty unfair that K9 Vanquish Soul and kind of Draco Tail are the only decks that can really interact with the opponent like this on their turn. But that won't be true forever. We're constantly seeing Konami announce more and more turn 0 interaction cards that don't just say negate on them. And eventually that kind of power is going to spread to a whole number of different decks. And while K9 Vanquish Soul might be a power outlier right now, I think the mirror match is a good glimpse at what Konami wants the future of this game to look like. And like I said, I love the mirror match. While I see the content creators around me doomsay the end of this game and say how the game is dying or it's already ruined, I don't see it that way. To me, this actually gets me excited for the future of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because if more decks are able to interact this way on turn 0, then it's going to make for a lot more interesting gameplays that aren't just entirely decided by the coin flip. And obviously, Konami still has a lot of work to do to make this a reality, but I still think it's a step in the right direction. I don't think a high density of turn 0 interaction cards are a bad thing. To me, it actually just feels like a fresh concept to CCGs in general. I think it's cool that in the potential future of Yu-Gi-Oh!, 2 players are going to be able to sit down for a game and fully interact with each other, regardless of who actually won the coin flip. But that's just kind of my hot take. What do you guys think? Do you think Konami's actually taking a step in the right direction with this as well? Or do you think that this new design philosophy is stepping away from Konami's roots and ruining the game? Hashtag not my Yu-Gi-Oh! But I'm genuinely curious to see what you guys think, because maybe I'm wrong in feeling excited about this. If you like this video, why not check out some of my other videos? But if not, I still hope you guys have a fantastic and wonderful day. Love you guys. Bye.